Welcome to the Awakened Anesthetist podcast. I'm your host, Mary Roberts. I'm a certified anesthesiologist assistant living and working outside of Kansas City, Missouri. I created this podcast to give CAAs across the nation a place to come together and awaken to our profession's unique ability to create a life by design rather than default. That process can start by simply listening and engaging with this podcast. By doing so, you're already changing what's possible for CAAs, for you, for me, for all of us. I'm so thankful you're here. Let's jump into this episode and see what we can do together. Hey there, this is your host, Mary Jean. If you are new to the Awakened Anesthetist or are a CAA or a CAA student or someone considering a career in anesthesia, welcome to you and I hope you stick around. I am taking the lead on this process episode. I want to share a little backstory on this journey so far of creating the Awakened Anesthetist because I think it helps set the scene for this episode where I will be sharing how I began and continue to create my dream life by setting intentions instead of goals. So way back in the doomed 2020, I really was grasping at anything trying to stabilize my mental health. And I had started a podcast in that shitstorm of a year with my husband. It's called The Growth-Minded Marriage. And it really was a creative outlet and honestly a way to help hold our marriage together. And it happens to be that I fell in love with podcasting. It became such a huge release as a form of self-expression. It reignited this creative spark in me that I had basically let go dormant. And as I found my footing in this particular form of media, I began specifically looking for a podcast that spoke to me specifically as a CAA, but I didn't find any. There were a lot of other healthcare-related content creators, podcasters, Instagrammers, etc., and I tried listening to them, and I could take kind of their high-level themes away, certainly, but ultimately their messages, their unique perspectives didn't resonate fully with me as a non-physician, non-nurse. And so, frankly, I was just really discouraged and sort of felt left out and like, why don't we matter enough that someone's speaking directly to us? And so I was like, wait a minute, I love podcasting. Maybe this is a space that I could step into. And so I began dreaming and scheming and trying to take things slow because I have a tendency to get very passionate and excited and go overboard and kind of lose myself in a project. I knew that this was something that could be really special and that could be really meaningful for our CAA community. And I just wanted to make sure that I had the time and space in my life to pursue this in the way that I wanted to pursue it. I knew that as I had progressed down my own path of self-realization and building my dream life, that I was constantly wanting and needing to connect with other CAAs who were of the same mindset as I am and who were maybe tackling big hurdles like I was, or just had that CAA commonality, had that perspective that when we shared stories about how we were navigating our life and work, it really resonated deeply. And I realized that that is the exact podcast that I wanted to create. I wanted to create a podcast that showcased our specific challenges and privileges as a CAA, and we could hear from another CAA about their specific journey, how they managed to get a part-time job, how they opened up perhaps a new practice site or a new state, how they negotiated a sign-on bonus. I have thousands of questions that I would love to ask a CAA or hear their perspective. And so I took my newfound love for podcasting and this creative self-expression and started The Awakened Anesthetist very slowly. The first episode actually of the Awakened Anesthetist podcast I released on my other podcast, The Growth-Minded Marriage. I hadn't yet created this platform. And one day, the first episode just burst out of me. I recorded it and I just wanted to put it somewhere. And so I put it over on that other podcast. And as I thought more and more about what I wanted this podcast to be and do in the world, I knew that these process episodes were the exact conversations that I was searching to find myself. And they were the ones that I wanted to put my effort in and to put out into the world so that CAAs listening could hear how another CAA got to where they are or where they want to go, and could take away from that person's experience ways that could benefit their own life. So my hope is that by sharing more of myself, of ourselves, more fully and transparently as CAAs, we can expand our profession's voice and its reach, bring new colleagues in, strengthen connections between existing CAAs, and just overall build a really robust, supportive community that a CAA can turn to if they are looking for an answer or they're looking for connection or support. That is the reason that I am here today, and I hope that's the reason that you're listening. I hope that what I'm trying to do is resonating with each of you. I would love nothing more than to hear from you. How is this podcasting impacting your life? How is it resonating? What do you like about it? Maybe what you don't like about it. You can do that by emailing me at theawakenedanesthetist@gmail.com, or you can leave a rating and review on whatever podcast app you're listening to. In particular, Apple and Spotify have made leaving reviews really purposeful and fairly easy, and that is a way that other CAAs will be able to quickly look at this podcast and figure out if it's meant for them or not. So I really encourage you to give me some feedback. I truly would appreciate it. And I'm just really excited to see where the Awakened Anesthetist takes me and how our CAA community can grow and build from here. So this episode is about setting intentions versus goals. And one of my core beliefs about the CAA profession is that it allows CAAs to create a life by design rather than default. That is certainly true for me as a CAA. And in this process episode, I want to share one of the mindset shifts that I used to begin building my dream life, my life by design. So if you're listening, you likely are a CAA or someone who wants to become one. And I can pretty much assume that you have grown up in a home or a head that tells you to aim higher, to push for more, get better grades, try harder. That certainly is a larger theme in our American culture, but it is also a very specific through line in the healthcare culture. And so most of us are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists, which is what I try to call myself. And we are harder on ourselves than anyone else could be. I'm sure there's some joke where, like, if you're a CAA, you might be creating elaborate long to-do lists, or you may feel a little twitchy until you have that perfect tabletop setup with all of the syringes in the correct line. Sort of joking, but mostly not, because this perfectionist culture is well understood as one of our biggest strengths in our community and also one of our biggest weaknesses. So when I learned how to set intentions instead of goals, I finally felt like I could harness that perfectionist energy that was brewing always inside of me for good in my life instead of for self-destruction. So here is what I learned about intentions versus goals. Intentions focus on changing your mindset and habits every day so you can change how you feel and be open to new possibilities. Goals, on the other hand, deny you other possible outcomes. Goals feel like an obligation. Intentions feel like an invitation to explore. Intentions are about who you are becoming, and goals are about what you are doing. And if you're thinking, certainly there is a time and place for both intentions and goals, I agree. I think you're right. But as we welcome in a new year, 2023, I would argue that most people, perhaps most CAAs, are thinking about setting goals for the new year what they want to achieve, what they want to buy or pay off, what they want to have versus how they want to feel. And shifting your mindset away from what you want to do to how you want to feel is a critical shift. And it was a critical shift in my life to start me on the path of achieving that dream life that I wanted. My journey with intention setting started on New Year's Eve, 2019. I sat down and for the first time, I set New Year's Eve intentions instead of goals. My intentions for that year or the upcoming year focused on how I wanted to feel instead of what I wanted to have or achieve in the traditional sense. I had asked myself these 3 questions, which I heard from someone else who had asked themselves these questions. I'm sharing these with you. And those 3 questions are, how do I want to feel? How do I feel right now? And what is the gap between those 2? How do I want to feel? How do I feel right now? And what is the gap between those 2? So let me give you a real life example of an intention I set, not that year, so not the first year I did this, but the second year, New Year's Eve of 2020 going into 2021. So that year, obviously, we had just all lived through the pandemic, and looking forward to 2021, I knew that I wanted to enjoy being a mom more. I had just experienced a much anticipated and much dreamed about career change that year, going from full-time to part-time, and then the pandemic hit very shortly after that. So I was at home more than ever before, and I had 3 kids home 24/7, save for the few days that I got to go to work as a CAA. And I just had never experienced that much time as a stay-at-home mom, and I was drowning. I was miserable, and I was spiraling. I knew coming out of that experience that I wanted to feel more patient and happy at home, and less like a short-fused control freak who dreaded the mornings. I wanted to look forward to my stay-at-home mom days, as I call them, which is something that I had wanted for years, and one of the reasons why I pushed for that part-time position. So one of my intentions for 2021, the upcoming year, was to wake up each morning feeling full of patience and peace as a mom. That was my intention, and I knew that that meant I had to make a lot of little changes, a lot of mindset shifts, and that I would need quiet time each day to do some soul searching to keep moving forward with that intention. So throughout 2021, I constantly checked in with myself and the decisions that I was faced with as they came. And I asked myself, is this decision going to help me feel more patient and more embodied in my motherhood? Or is it going to keep me in the frantic, never enough mindset energy that I had lived through in 2020? And life's not perfect. So the moments that I still felt impatient and unmotivated, or like I wanted to hide from my children in 2021, I knew those were signals that I needed to make a course correction. I would retrace my steps and ask myself what I had needed before I felt miserable. What did I need in my life that day, that moment, to feel more patient and more at peace as a mom? And then I just did those things. So in 2021, we got a babysitter. I said no to working any extra shifts. I also started getting up before my kids so that I could have some alone me time. I began writing, which is something I had never explored before. And I made sure that I had a bunch of good books that I was excited about downloaded on my phone so that my 45-minute drive could really serve as some extra me time and I could listen to these wonderful books. And potentially biggest of all is I went back to therapy. So over the course of 2021, I got closer and closer to my intention of feeling more patient and at peace as a mom. And I do think the hardest thing for me is to realize that unlike a goal that can be checked off a to-do list and you're done and you made it, An intention is an ever-evolving process. Some days I feel like I am totally there, and other days I have to learn the lesson yet again. I know I will always be making decisions based on preserving my peace and my patience as a mom, which for me means saying no to things that I really want to do, and especially saying no to things that other people want me to do. This intention is certainly not easy. It's actually very hard for me to keep reframing my life to preserve my peace, but I know it's the right kind of hard. And so I continue to do it, and I continue to work on it now through 2022. I hope that example was helpful in describing how setting intentions instead of goals can be a critical mindset shift in moving you in the direction of your dream life and the dream way that you wish to feel. The CAA profession is so powerful because it can be used to create more time and space in your life if you wish, or you can get a lot of self-worth and identification out of being a CAA, which is also good. And I just think it offers so many avenues for self-fulfillment, and my story is just one of them. And so I encourage you to consider what intentions you might want to set for 2023 and how the CAA profession could launch you into realizing those intentions. I have enjoyed sharing this process episode with you. Again, I hope that you are liking this content and it's resonating. I would love for you to join the Awakened Anesthetist community, which is a monthly newsletter I send out, and you can find a link in the show notes to sign up for that. Please leave a rating or review on the podcast platform you're listening to, especially Spotify or Apple. It really does help. And, as a creator who spends her time in a closet talking to a microphone, it's just really nice to get some feedback and hear what you guys are thinking about the podcast. So I hope you guys are having a great December. I know it is busy. It's crazy. Please remember to take some moments for yourself and for your own peace and your own family. Best of luck as you finish out this fourth quarter and move on to the new year. Remember, you deserve to feel good behind the drape. Till next time.